Hey everybody, and welcome to Tales from the Fog. I am your host Casey, and with me as always is the amazing Veronica. How are you doing today?
Fabulous, as always.
Awesome. And this week we have another guest with us. You know him from themeparkadventure.com and one of the co-creators of Midsummer Scream, Mr. Rick West. How are you doing, Rick?
Hi guys, how are you? Thank you so much for having me on tonight.
Thank you for being with us. I mean, it's been a long time coming, and I know that there's so much to talk about, but I just want to say thank you. It's actually a really huge honor to have you on our podcast. So thanks, dude.
Well, I appreciate it, and it's cool for me because I've been listening to you guys for a while, and so it's just weird because after months of listening to you guys as I drive, to and from work and all that, it's and I've seen you guys in person. It's just weird that this is the first time that I've been on the show, but here I am. So we're going to make up for all of that lost time now.
Excellent. Yeah, and it's not that we didn't want to. We both, all of us, have such complicated schedules that we finally made it happen, and it's fabulous. So
that's awesome. Well, I know that we talked a little while ago about doing this, but we were just starting to release information for Midsummer 17, mm-hmm. and we decided we would wait a little bit longer so that we had oodles of stuff to discuss.
And now I actually have your website open because there's so much stuff I can't even remember what you guys have announced.
That's a good thing, yes.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, since we have a lot of listeners not from California, what is Midsummer Scream?
Midsummer Scream is a large-scale Halloween and horror convention, and it is held every summer, the last weekend in July, at the Long Beach Convention Center. And it's basically, for layman's terms, the best way to sum it up in the elevator speech is it is the Comic-Con of Halloween, is how it's been described.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that's a good description.
Yeah. So for people that have never been, what can they expect to do while they're there? What will guests get out of their experience?
Anxiety. And they're going to find, if they are Halloween fans and or horror fans, and that usually goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
They're going to find that this is the show that they have always dreamed about going to. We have a massive show floor that's over 90,000 square feet. We have close to 250 vendors, I believe, this year, and that is everything from people that make jewelry to clothing, to artwork, and everything else you can imagine. Professional, masks. It's like the shopper's paradise for the macabre. Then we also have world-class presentations. We have two, main stage presentation areas. One is the Terrace Theater this year. That holds our big presentations, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But that is part of the Long Beach Convention Center. It seats up to about 3,000, actually a little bit more than 3,000 fans, if necessary. And also we have then a second stage, which holds littler presentations, but certainly not lesser presentations. And that's going to hold, I believe, about 750 people this year.
Which is still a huge space.
Yeah, it is. So last year our main stage was 1,000 and our second stage was about 300. So knowing that the size of the crowd this year is going to be substantially more than it was last year, we really decided that was the area we wanted to focus a lot of attention on as far as growth for 17. And so that's what we did. And we'll talk about the panels and presentations in a minute. We also have Hall of Shadows, which you guys are intimately familiar with.
Yes, yes.
The Hall of Shadows, excuse me, is roughly it's like a football field sized area of the show floor. It's more than a third of our show floor that we basically turn into a perpetually dark theme park entertainment area, which is we have over a dozen mini haunts for people to sample from haunted attractions across the Southland. And we also have live entertainment in the form of the Decayed Brigade. And you guys are, well, we can talk about that also because I want to hear stuff that you guys have been working on too.
Sure.
So just in a nutshell, that's it. And then everything in between. Live entertainment, we've got Vampire Burlesque, we've got special guests like Sid Haig and Cassandra Peterson and Leanna Vamp, and we have Black Cat adoptions again this year, which was like out of control popular last year. Rather than have them out in the concourse this year in cages, we actually have an entire Black Cat lounge. So that's going to be fun. We have a screaming room that is hosted by HorrorBuzz.com. And so there's something for everyone. And yes, we even have a kids area on the show floor where they can have arts and crafts. We're going to have little friendly monster meet and greets and all sorts of cool things for the little ones.
One of the things that I noticed on the website, I don't know if I saw you guys put it out on your Facebook for Midsummer, but I saw that Slash the Musical is coming to Midsummer Scream, which I guess it was a really big hit at the Fringe Festival this year, right?
It was huge. I have not personally seen it. Part of our team has, and it is supposed to be fantastic. So we are all very excited to see what that team brings to Midsummer, and we know that there are a lot of fans that are excited that they're coming as well.
Yeah, I've only heard a little bit of it. From what I understand, is they basically took the horror tropes for like Sleepaway Camp and Friday the 13th, and they kind of turned them all on their head. So like, who would be like the slutty girl is actually a guy, and the jock is like a roller derby girl, and things like that. So they kind of take all the tropes and twist them around, and it's supposed to be really funny.
That sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm sure that it's going to be really, really great. We have that. There's also a performance stage where things like that will take place. We have that. We've got Wicked Lit is going to come. They're going to, they're going to do a reading for us, and it's just the entire weekend is out of control. And I would be remiss not to mention our Saturday night party. Saturday night party is going to be Sinister Circus, and that is presented by Queen Mary's Dark Harbor, and it's going to be actually on the ship, if you can believe that.
That's going to be really cool.
Yeah, it's insane. It's perfect. We had Oingo Boingo play our Saturday night show, our Saturday night party last year, and so this year we were like, well, how the hell do you even top that? Yeah. And there was a lot of back and forth, right? Like, well, do we go to a local bar? There's no local bar that big. Do we use something? Do we maybe turn Hall of Shadows into a party area? We don't know, because then you have to have the AC and everything on for the entire show floor, and it just got really kind of complicated. And then it was like the stupid moment when I just thought, well, wait a minute, there's that big, beautiful ship that we all love right across the bay there, and they have their own little Halloween thing going that a few people have heard about, so it was just, it was like, duh, it was the bolt out of the blue, and so I had dinner with Steve and Charity from Dark Harbor, and we walked it right on in. They thought it was a great idea, and we gave them the ball, and they've run with it. And so all of your favorite Dark Harbor monsters are going to be prowling around at the Sinister Circus, and booze will flow like blood in rivers, and it's going to be an amazing party on the sports deck, which is the upper deck of the ship between the two smokestacks, looking out over Long Beach Harbor at night. So it's going to be absolutely stunning, right?
Absolutely. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's going to be a rougher than hell Sunday morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Not like we don't have an entire huge day of stuff happening on Sunday or anything.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. We have purposely cram-packed Midsummer Scream so that from open to close, there is literally too much going on, and my mind is going again. The wheels are turning. We have a bunch of classes too. We have a very robust education program where people can go to seminars, and Casey, you're going to be teaching, how to make slider gloves.
Yeah, we haven't actually gotten to mention that on the podcast yet. So
there you go.
There we go. I'm doing a class. Veronica is going to be doing it as well as two other Decayed Brigaders. I'm going to have like a little panel. So while we're building the gloves, we can discuss a lot of different options and kind of the history of slider gloves and how they've evolved through the years. And it should be a lot of fun.
That's really
And then,
That's great. Excuse me, and I really apologize to your listeners. I've had really bad bronchitis like for the past couple of weeks, and it's got its claws so deep into me it just won't let go. So it's like I'm demon possessed. So sorry, I'm not possessed. I don't have Tourette's. It's just bronchitis on this end. But we're really excited that you're going to teach that, and it's really funny because you and I actually didn't really talk about this yet, but I can remember a time not too long ago where even discussing the art of crafting slider gloves was taboo. That was a major, major no-no. And so it's kind of interesting to see that it's gone from being, oh no, you don't get to do that unless you're a slider, to having a seminar on how to do that at a major mainstream convention. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is kind of an important thing that we've been discussing within the Decay Brigade. And there's something else going on that I don't know if I'm even allowed to say with the Decay Brigade, but we're doing something else later on in August, which is pretty cool. But one of the things that came out of sort of the situation with Fear VR and Knott's Berry Farm was that, you start to realize that all it takes is a slider injuring the wrong person who has the right kind of power or enough money, that it could really, Knott's could just decide, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. And it could happen at a Six Flags park. It could happen, wherever. And it could end up affecting the entire industry. So one of the things that we started discussing was like, we really need to start making sure the people that are sliding are doing it safely with the right equipment so they don't injure themselves or injure other guests.
Sure.
And so that's kind of the approach that the brigade is taking, and it's sort of the one scream, one team,
Close enough.
one team, one scream mentality that we have is like, let's just get everybody on the same page and make sure it's safe.
Yeah, it's actually been an interesting point of discussion. Like, it's kind of raised a couple ideas of, like you were saying, how originally it was like it's almost like Fight Club. The first rule is you do not talk about it. It's like you had to be in the know and all this stuff. But that sense of I'll say our, because I'm an ex-haunt monster, of our trade secrets being so sacred has gone out the window since, it has spread to so many different places. And like Casey was saying, like, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And if no one shows you how to do it, you're going to keep doing it wrong until you learn how to do it right. Lord knows who you're going to hurt in the meantime, or decide it's not fun because your gear's not right. So, it's, while we do, like, deeply, like, hold it dear, at the same time, because we hold it so dear, we want others to do it, but do it right. So, yes, it started at Knott's, and yes, it is, something that, some other parks don't do it because they don't think it's safe or whatever, but Knott's still does, and it's part of their identity. And this isn't to lessen that identity, it's to keep keep that legend going. And that classes like this are respecting Knott's by making sure that those who emulate, because they respect Knott's also, are going to do it right and led by people who really know what they're doing. So that's just our perspective. I'm sure there are others who think that still it's, how dare you? But you know what? It's going to happen. We're going to make sure that the people who do seek this out and want to do it are going to do it right, and they're going to have fun, and they're going to feel like part of that community instead of being ostracized by some community. So That's the end game.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think it's great. And I think that there's going to be a lot of interest in that. And I think that's really cool that you guys are doing that.
I hope so. I really hope that it gets people to like, oh, I never thought about how to do that. But I also want the kids who are like, oh, I've always wanted to do this. Like, really get people involved.
Sure, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, let's see. We got so many presentations. I'm trying to look and see which is. So we have Queen Mary, Knott's Berry Farm.
Yep. All the major
Universal
theme
Six
parks.
Flags.
They're going to do their thing. So fans can expect a weekend of big announcements and huge surprises and probably lots of monsters roaming around the Terrace Theater.
Yeah, but there's two that I'm personally really interested in because they're two things one that I grew up with and one that I really love.
Mm-hmm.
The Are You Afraid of the Dark panel. How did that come about?
that is something that really Johanna Atalano, who is another producer on Midsummer, she, I'm telling you, she for years has wanted to do this presentation. Prior to Midsummer Scream, the two of us were also co-producers of Scare LA, and we worked on Scare LA. We created Scare LA with two others, and we worked on that show for the first 3 years of its life. And almost since the beginning, Johanna's wanted to do the Are You Afraid of the Dark thing, and it just never really panned out. And so, that came up again last year, and it was like one of those things that it just didn't come to fruition, so it got put back on the back burner. And you know what? This year, all the stars aligned, and it happened. And like once one person got locked in, another person said, "Oh yeah, I'll do it," and then all the pieces fell into place. And I'd be hard pressed to say that I could remember when Johanna was happier about something. She was so freaking stoked and so excited. And when we made the announcement, it was just really satisfying to me as the creative director for Midsummer is getting to see something that she's wanted so badly be so well received by the fans, and so everybody just like lost their minds when we announced this.
Yeah,
and seeing that it was just a grand slam, I couldn't be more excited for her and more happy. I think it's going to be great, and I think it's a win-win for the fans too.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this has got to be something where, so this was in the 90s. I mean, how many of us who are active members of the haunt community grew up watching this show, and that was like what planted the seed for liking that spooky, odd storytelling, type of thing. Like this, for some people, this could have been the thing that was like, I want to be a horror film director, or, just like got that train of thought thinking maybe they wanted to be a writer, or, who knows? I mean, for somebody, this is like the end all be all. Like with Johanna, it's just like, this is going to be the coolest thing in the world. And I know for me, like I'm giddy as a schoolgirl about it. Yeah. Because I do remember just being scared just watching these, which is stupid. I was like 12. I shouldn't have been scared, but I was. So like getting to see it from their perspective and hear the stories and like relive it. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be good. That's going to be a fun one.
Mm-hmm. And then the other panel that I'm really excited about is the Beyond the Fifth Dimension, creating the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror.
Ah, that little thing, huh?
Yeah. So I know this one has also been in the making for a while, right?
Well, it's one of those things where all along since we've been doing shows, Johanna and I both work in the themed entertainment industry. And of course, TPA has 20 plus years ties to the fan community and the theme park industry. And so there, by default, there's a lot of interest from our side, as well as the fans that we bring in to theme park stuff. And so for years and years, we did, haunted mansion presentations of certain types. And it got to the point where I told the team, we have beaten the mansion to death. There's got to be, there are other things. And so we did last year at Midsummer, we did the creating frightening attractions for theme park audiences. And we had some really, high profile theme park legends on the presentation, talking about everything from, Indiana Jones to Alien Encounter and Ghostbusters and things like that. And people loved it. I mean, people went apeshit for it. And so we just kind of were thinking, well, there's always that one big spot. Of course, we have the regular theme park presentations by each of the different companies, but I like to get up there and host something that kind of is a crossover for the entire fan base to get into. And so the answer kind of presented itself to the question when we learned that Disney was going to change Tower of Terror here to the Guardians attraction. Yeah. And that became a very, very hot button very quickly with fans here in Southern California. And it just kind of fell into place. I mean, we have a long relationship with Mark Silverman, who is the voice of Rod Serling for the attraction. And, I hit him up. I said, hey, would you maybe be interested in doing this, a tower presentation? And he was like, oh, yeah, that, of course, that would be great. Mark's always been great. He's all in. And because who doesn't want to hear him do the narration live on stage, right?
Right.
Yes, exactly.
I fanboy every time he does it. In fact, he's actually promised me that he's going to record my personal voicemail like that for my phone.
Oh.
And so I'm just like such a big geeky fanboy whenever he does that. It's just ridiculous. But the thing that was great about that, it was also kind of like the Are You Afraid of the Dark thing. It kind of snowballed. Mark said, well, I'm in touch. I still am friends with Corey Soulson, and he was the art director, of Florida's, of the original one, and then was the show producer for all the other ones, that came. And so I talked and met with Corey, and he was all in. And then they said, we can bring in Michael Sprout too. We talked to Michael. He's the show writer of the thing. So for me personally, that's what I do professionally. I'm a show writer. So to be able to have the guy that actually wrote, One Dark and Stormy Night, that is just, to me, that is going to be so freaking awesome to have the show writer, because show writers are very overlooked.
Yeah.
So to have him up there and be able to talk about, the genesis of this script and the entire story of having it happen on Halloween night, so damn exciting, right? And then we're also going to have Eric Jacobson, who we haven't announced yet, but we're going to very soon here. He was an executive with Walt Disney Imagineering who actually pushed Tower through. It was his project.
Wow.
And so he's also joining the presentation. So everything has just fallen into place, and it couldn't come at a better time. It's a subject that fans here are passionate about, and in my opinion, what a perfect, cool way for all the SoCal Tower fans to come together as a community and really kind of give this attraction the send-off that it deserves, right?
Absolutely.
Together and with some of the people that absolutely were the genesis of this beautiful attraction, which I think is one of the best attractions in the world.
Oh, it's going to be so cool.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. Yeah.
I just remember the first time I rode the one in Florida, it blew my mind.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, man. Of course. It still blows my mind. We go to Florida at least once a year, and we try to ride Tower whenever we're out there if we're at Disney. And, boy, I tell you, the minute that elevator car lurches out of the shaft into the fifth dimension, that is just like the entire holy shit moment, know? And we didn't get that here, and we'll talk about that during the presentation. We didn't get that here or in subsequent versions of Tower. But God, that just, to me, that makes the Florida version just that much more special. And now that it's like almost the only one, and I'm hearing that they're going to do the Guardians thing in Paris to their tower. So really, it could be very soon, Florida is going to be the only place you can go on the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. There's just so much to talk about. And what a great attraction, though. It's such a bitchin' attraction.
Do you know if they're going to talk about the concept they had for possibly doing the bar?
We can maybe talk about that. Now, the guys that are on this presentation, they are retired. They are no longer with Disney. So we as fans may be more in the loop than they are. So I don't know. Me personally, I'm all about that. To have a bar in Tower, are you kidding me?
Yep.
Now, the last I heard, just word on the street, is that had been squashed because they decided very quickly that there would not be enough room for the operations side of that thing. So, well, you still can sit at Brown Derby down the street and look at it down Sunset Boulevard,
That's true.
but it's not the same, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about the Hall of Shadows. Last year, you guys had Larry Bones do the big entrance called Toxicity.
Yeah, Toxicity, yeah.
Which was amazing. What do we have going on as far as the entranceway this year?
Sure. So, again, going back to the whole theme park thing, for us, it's all about weenies. And that sounds so wrong. But anyway, a weenie is what the castle is at the end of Main Street. It's a visual attractor, right? It draws you. So the Matterhorn is the visual attractor for Fantasyland along with the castle. The rocket jets used to be the visual attractor for Tomorrowland and on and on. So the weenie for Hall of Shadows this year is being done by Cal Haunts. They're a group of very talented haunters here in Los Angeles. They do a lot of home haunts, and they are just, the stuff they do is just theme park quality, and they are doing a large Sleepy Hollow Gothic cemetery. that guests are going to approach. There's a huge sign that says cemetery and Hall of Shadows, and you're going to go right on in, and you're going to go past graves and giant, tombstones and trees, and there's going to be special effects and all sorts of special lighting, and there's going to be a raven. There's going to be a raven perched probably on a tombstone, I think it's going to be. And the raven says little things throughout the day, and yours truly did the voice of the raven.
Oh, awesome.
That's great.
For all shows. So there's a little pro tip, a little insider tip there if you want to stand and listen and hear the funny little things that the raven says. And it may or may not say, "Beware the Decayed Brigade." So it's that was really fun doing that. And so really the team that they've been working their asses off. And as you know, here in Southern California, it's warming up on the weekends.
Yeah.
It's hot all the time, but on the weekends, these guys and gals are out in the direct sunlight, just building trees, building tombstones, building these huge 12-foot gate. It's a 12-foot gate that you're going to go through. It's ridiculous what they've done.
That's going to be cool.
And so I am I'm so excited for everybody to see it. What an entry statement for the Hall of Shadows.
Yeah, and then are there any particular mini haunts that you're looking forward to checking out?
That's like asking what kid is your favorite. We have some returning friends, like Higgins Manor. They're coming back, and Dead Zone 805, they're coming back. And then we've got a bunch of new ones. Motel 6 Feet Under jumped in, and they've changed their name now to Mabel's 6 Feet Under, but they're going to be there, which is amazing. We have something that's going to be really, really cool that we have. You guys are going to get the first to hear about this. We have terror trucks. It's these things they're mobile haunted houses. The guy is going to bring one of his terror trucks there, and it's like ridiculous. It's like 55 feet long. It's a big rig. I mean, it's crazy, and people go up into the entire haunted house. It's inside the truck.
What a great idea!
Yeah.
And that's going to be inside the Hall of Shadows?
That's going to be in the Hall of Shadows.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. And then you guys have your runway that's about 125 feet this year. So I want to hear. Let's talk a little bit because everybody hears me rambling all the time. I want to hear from you guys how the practices are going and what the fans can expect from the Decayed Brigade this year.
Well, we got together, close to Christmas last year, because the last year at Midsummer Scream, the Brigaders really pushed the boundaries of what had been done with sliding before. Mm-hmm. And so we all got together and we literally sat in a hotel room, conference room, and said, what the hell are we going to do to top what we did this year? Mm-hmm. And, what it came down to is we decided that let's focus on story. So for the first time ever, the Decayed Brigade is actually doing a 3-act story. So each show is one part of the story. So in order to get the whole story, you have to watch all 3 shows.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Great.
And anything else you want to throw on there?
So, that basically sums it up. So what we've been doing is, in typical format, I'll give you a little insight into how the Decayed Brigade kind of builds their shows. So in the meeting that we had at the hotel, we decided what our overarching story was going to be, how we were going to split it up into acts 1, 2, and 3, who is going to portray the various, members of the story, and then how we were going to, because none of us talk, and, it's a very visual thing. It's kind of like, Jabberwockies, where it's all music and dance, it's all music and movement. So we had to find a way, and some of us we're already, we're seasoned performers or dancers, whatever. We're used to being able to tell a story without actually saying anything. But some of us aren't. They've never done anything like this before. They just are really strong sliders. So we've actually been able to up everybody's game as far as being able to communicate in a different way while still being, some of the best sliders that have ever been. I'm not necessarily including me in that, but, these guys are hugely talented. So now we're combining an actual story that is, it's kind of heavy. It's going to be something that at the end of some of it, you're going to be like, whoa, it's going to leave a mark, but it's going to be awesome and bigger than anything the Decayed Brigade has ever done. So, in order to make this kind of actually materialize, we've split it up into our different acts, and we've been working on each act as we go. So we started 3 months, before go time, and so we started in May, so we did all of May, and then we're going through June, and now we're going into July. So every month we've worked on a specific show, and they're all linked together. So while you can watch one and get an idea of the epic storytelling that's going to happen, it does benefit you to watch all 3 because you are going to see the whole story. And the level of difficulty going into some of these tricks is even higher than last year, which last year we were like, there's no way we can ever be what we did.
Right.
I don't know how it happened or like how much alcohol it took sitting around, like just yelling out stupid ideas like, oh my gosh, it'd be really stupid. Let's do this. And then you try it.
That
and then
sounds
it
like
works.
a Midsummer meeting.
Yeah. Like really, that's how those crazy stunts get built. Like we're watching, we have your website up and the little Decade Brigade GIF is there, and you see these 2 guys pulling me on a rope. And like, who in their right mind would think of doing that? But it just happened like, oh, what would be cool?
Let's try water skiing.
Let's try water skiing with sliding. And then it ended up being like this really epic stunt. So like we had the backflip, which was pretty much like the crown jewel of like crazy stunts. That has been upped. The level of physical ability from everyone has increased. So our capability of building stronger tricks has happened. We have a super awesome new prop that you will see at the show. That's something you're going to be like, what the hell are they going to do with this?
Yeah.
And then you'll see, what we do have in mind. We've got, the music that Casey has mixed. Like he's built all of our shows. So like the level of musicality has increased. I mean, everything is just going to be so cool, and I'm so proud of these guys. But like the amount of work, like last year we started practicing once a week for the first 2 months, and then I think we went to twice a week in the last month. This time we've practiced twice a week from the get-go.
Yeah,
so there
and starting next month, I think practices are going to double in length or something like that. I know we're going to go longer.
Yeah, I mean, the level of work that these guys are putting into it is, it's awe-inspiring. These guys are going to, it's going to be something like, we hope and we think it's going to be like nothing anyone has ever seen. And we hope that it's memorable. And we hope it's inspiring for people who want to slide to, actually buy a set of pads, go to Casey's class, learn how to make those gloves, and make it happen for themselves. So it's
pretty awesome. I'm pretty stoked on that. And I do have to get down to Orange County and come to one of your practices and see that. I think it's really cool that we're recording this tonight when we are we are at the 1 month out mark.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly a month.
This time a month from now, we will be over at the Queen Mary starting to party the night away. So it's pretty crazy to think that we're just 4 weeks away. But you know what? You guys have got a grip on what you're doing. I think we've got a grip on our end to what we're doing. And it's going to be a hell of a show.
Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts that go into a show of, like, I'm not talking about the Cade Brigade. I'm talking about Midsummer, which is like all the different things that have to go right and all the things that have to be accounted for. Like everyone involved has to be in it 110%. And from what the results were last year, you can tell that everybody was in it. There was no half-assing. It was as awesome as it was because of the people involved, because of the level of give a shit. You can tell that it was, it was memorable. And this year is going to be even more so because now it has happened and, learned from some mistakes, built on things that worked last year. It's going to come together to be definitely something for
Well, it's great. Thank you for that, Veronica. It was crazy pants last year at this time because we literally had about 2.5, 3 months from are we going to do something to showtime. And that is absolutely insane. I would not even wish that on an enemy, and I would never do that again. It was insane, and it just it was because by all intents and purposes it was our 4th year doing a show together. For us, if we had done this from scratch, I think it would have crashed and burned really. But the fact that we were already so comfortable with this team. I think that's the reason. And then also our frontline people. We had Sierra Skelton. She runs an amazing volunteer workforce with us that are just our troops. And last year, just to give you an idea how we're growing, last year we had, I want to say, maybe 75, 80 volunteers. This year we have about 200 volunteers that we're looking at. And we're having intense discussion with them. We vet them out very carefully because we don't want just anyone working and representing Midsummer Scream, and as an extension, representing the community that we're all part of, unless they're 100% in. And, we're about to have our orientation, and it's just one of those things that's really exciting to see so many people come together with the same passion, and to really just want to carry the vision forward and just put on a world-class show that it's really exciting. There are people from other countries that we hear are flying in for Midsummer this year.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's so awesome. We're really, really excited. Last year we had, for our first year, which was crazy, we had about 8,000 guests.
Wow.
And this year, all indicators point to about 15,000. That's what we're shooting for, and that's what we've kind of like designed everything for. Mm-hmm. And so the growth is really exciting, terrifying if you stop and think about it long enough. But it's very exciting. And to be able to have 12 months as opposed to 2.5 months has been a blessing. And kind of a little weird, because at this point, rather than completely freaking out, we're like, yeah, we got this. This is we're it's go time, and we're not like freaking out with cold sweats. And, so that's really good. In fact, as far as the creative process goes, this one's kind of bagged. This is in the bag already. We're on the runway. We're ready for takeoff. And about 30-40% of my thought process these days is already on Midsummer 18, to be honest with you. In fact, I can tell you guys, we already have the first presentation for MSS 18 locked.
How about that?
So that's and we've already had 19 discussions.
Wow.
So it's one of those forward-looking things that it is, it's our life. It's 24/7. And it's all about this community. If we didn't have the love and support of the community, there would not be a Midsummer Scream. So we do this, we all have professional jobs. Johanna and I work 40 plus hours a week. Then we do TPA, then we do Midsummer, and then we try to remember to breathe and eat. Yeah. And, it's a labor of love. But man, I'm telling you, in 4 weeks, when those doors open and the people come flooding in, it's going to be all worth it. And it is such a freaking rush, Yeah.
I can't even imagine being responsible for something that big. Like I try every once in a while to sit back and think about how you've had to orchestrate so many things and keep track of so many different people and tasks and hits on the calendar, and like it makes my brain hurt to think of how you can possibly build something that, okay, for one thing, when you did it last year with a couple of months and it turned out as exquisite as it turned out, and now you have 12 months, but it's doubling in size. You've got, more moving parts than last year. Even so, I was like, you can really tell that you guys know what you're doing when it comes to that sort of thing.
Thank you for that. It's, It can be like I said, I joke, but it is true. I mean, if you stop and step back and kind of and look at the big picture, it can easily be fairly overwhelming. There are just it's just one of those things where I have really bad like ADD. I am like, I get squirreled nonstop. And so my best plan of attack on these things is I focus on things in my inbox. Actually, I use my email as like my to-do list. And if it's something that's unresolved, I don't move it into a folder. It stays in my inbox. And I just hit those every day until I can file them away. And, it's just one of those things where you just kind of, and there are a lot of things that you forget, and then we'll be at a meeting. We're at the point now where we're meeting in person. The producers, we meet once a week in person, And, it's not uncommon for somebody to say, oh, well, did you do that? And you're like, well, shit, nope, totally forgot that. So we're far from perfect. But we're comfortable enough with each other where, we kind of know what one another is doing. And if one of us stumbles and we forget something, we don't berate. We just say, hey, okay, well, let's get it done. Let's we need to get this done. And we've just been really, a well-oiled machine that way. And it couldn't happen otherwise, really, because even though you have 12 months, something of this size, it is a big operation. Yeah. And I don't know how the hell it ever happened. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we're running a major convention now. Yeah. And there's no major convention 101 class to take. It's just one of those things that kind of happens. And it turns out that I guess we have a knack for it. And what I do think that is special, I want to say what I do think that differentiates our team from other convention teams, and not any convention in particular, just any convention team, is that we do come at it kind of like a theme park project. We are very concerned and very cognizant of guest flow. Mm-hmm. We're very concerned and cognizant of wayfinding, and absolutely fanatical about guest service. Yeah. With our people, and you don't find that at every convention that you go to. Very, very often, people go to top line conventions and come out going, "Oh my God, the team was clueless. I had nobody knew what the hell was going on. We didn't know where we were supposed to be," and we never want that to be us.
Yeah.
And so we are fanatical when it comes to that. And we empower our volunteers to, if you don't know the answer to something that a guest asks, you stay with that guest as long as it takes to get the answer.
Yeah.
And so we approach things very differently. We approach things almost like Midsummer Scream is a theme park.
Well, that's the funny thing is last year when we went and, because we were there the day before on Friday for dress rehearsal and you could see how organized everything is. And one of the things that I said to Veronica was you could tell that Rick used to work for Disney, because every single event or thing that I've done with somebody who has worked for Disney, the organization level is like through the roof. And they really still kind of hold those 4 keys that Disney teaches you, close to their vest. And they still try to follow those in whatever they do.
Yeah. It's just, that has a lot to do with it, and my internal compass when it comes to things like this, because I've been several times in my life, I've been like up in San Francisco for years. I was the visitor services manager for the Aquarium of the Bay on Pier 39, and I've been in a lot of positions where I have direct contact with people. And, going into Midsummer, I want all of our guests to be treated the way that I would want to be treated as a guest. And that's a pretty basic and pretty good internal compass, right, to follow. Yeah. So, but it obviously is rocket science to some others because they don't get that, right? But it just, in life, if you just treat people and handle things and situations the way that you'd want them to be handled, it just seems like it kind of takes care of itself. Yeah. And everything kind of falls in place. But I guess that if you hadn't gone through, there were my days as a cast member at Disneyland, and certainly having the, one of my mentors in life was a gentleman by the name of Van France. And Van was the guy that came up with the Disney University for Walt Disney in 1955 and the cast member orientation process. In fact, Van was the gentleman that coined the phrase cast members and good show, bad show, on stage. That was the guy. And so That's Van, awesome. I was very fortunate enough to have as a mentor for years in life. And I guess that kind of just becomes ingrained then. It becomes part of your DNA. Mm-hmm. And then now, of course, working in the themed entertainment industry, everything that we design now is with the guest in mind. Yeah. So that just kind of all spills over. And then, of course, David Markland, who is our executive director, he comes from a production background. He produces events. That's what he does. And so he knows how to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then we have Gary Baker, who is our executive producer. He runs all the AV. He ran all the AV for the first 3 years for us for Scare LA, and then he came with us and was really one of the biggest catalysts of making Midsummer a thing. And so Gary knows better than anybody how to do, the show lighting and set up the stages that look so freaking awesome, and even your runway, he's figuring out how to light your runway in the hall. And Johanna, she is theme park through and through. She grew up with loving theme parks. She works now for BRC Imagination Arts, and they don't necessarily do theme parks, but they do visitor service, visitor experiences for corporate branding centers. And BRC is a leader in the industry, and so she knows exactly what she's doing. And then Claire Dunlap, she's our supervising producer, and she comes from customer service, management, acting background. So we have this really robust background amongst all of us, and it kind of all filters into when we get laser focused on something. I think we really have a strong roster. I'm thinking of, like, if you created a D&D figure, that would be, our attributes would be through the freaking roof. It would be awesome.
Yeah.
So and I really think that is obviously vital and critical in how Midsummer is executed.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So let's talk about another panel. Knott's is doing their usual panel where they talk about what's coming up for the season.
Yep.
But then they also are doing on Sunday another panel for their 45th anniversary. So how did they come to you and say we want to do another panel, or did you approach them and say, hey, it's your 45th anniversary, are you going to do anything special during your other presentation? Like, how did that all come together?
So when we were thinking of how scary the number 45 is this year, we landed on, this is the 45th haunt. This is the 45th Scary Farm. And actually, Knott's didn't approach us. I approached Ted Doherty, who is an authority on all things Knott's Scary Farm.
Yes,
and I've been friends with Ted for a long, long time. In fact, I knew Ted before he created Ultimate Haunt and all that. He was a TPA fan. And, I said to him, we need to do a big 45th haunt presentation. And Ted says, I am honored. That would be fantastic. And I said, I can't think of anybody other than you to do this. And we actually then told Knott's, oh, by the way, we're doing a Knott's 45 panel presentation. So it is not Knott's sanctioned. It's not something that they're doing. However, they're very excited that we're doing it, and some of their current team members, including Ken Parks, who is their vice president of entertainment, and John Cook, who is one of their main designers these days. They're going to be on the presentation. But really, I left it up to Ted and I, and I got to tell you, this is actually one of the most difficult things that I've ever done producing a show. When you have, and we decided we would do 90 minutes because there's going to be there's got to be an introduction that shows kind of like the 45 years of Haunt, and then there's got to be panels. Well, there are a lot of people that have come and gone in 45 years.
Yeah.
At Scary Farm. And, the thing is, our panel presentations usually are 4 or 5 people, and that's it. That didn't feel right to us for the Knott's thing. We wanted to have more than that. So it's logistically very tricky. In the 90 minutes, we're going to cycle through about 11 or 12 different individuals and go through kind of like the decades and the different aspects of Haunt. So Ted and I had to come up with this dream list of like perfect, presentation.
Yeah.
There were a lot of names. There were a lot of names.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And a lot of those names, Ted and I, it was not pleasant, I'll tell you. I'll be very honest with you. It was not pleasant going round after round after round cutting people that we really care about. that we knew might feel bad that they weren't included on this. In that regard, it's kind of a no win, because I mean, you've got 45 years and you've got 90 minutes to cover it, so you do the math. It's not very favorable, right?
Not a lot of time for even 11 or 12 people.
Yeah. I think the way that we figured it is each panel of 4 is going to be like 15 minutes, maybe.
It's going to be fast.
And it's going to be lightning fast. And so we landed on certain individuals that really contributed a lot. I mean, starting with people like John Waite, he worked for Bud Hurlbut on the mountains, and Bud said to him, "Hey, we ought to spook up the rides." And John Waite said, "Yeah, let's do that." And so John Waite, his ghost actually was hanging in the Haunt Museum at Knott's for a while.
Cool.
Was like one of the first guys to spook up the attractions at Knott's, for the haunt. We're going to have people that were some of the very first monsters at Knott's in the early 70s. We've got people that used to be designers that were in charge of things, and then moving into the more recent years, we've got Todd Fox, who was in charge of the decorations for the park for years.
Yeah, we adore Todd.
Todd did a lot of really, really amazing mazes, and then we have to look at the entertainment side of it too. And you know what? We love the hell out of Ed Alonzo, and we asked Ed Alonzo, and he was like, "Holy shit, yes, I'm all on for that." And so he was really excited too, and we were like, "Holy shit, Ed's excited to be part of this." And so that worked out too, and so then we did ask some people that were out of town already. They're going to be out of town, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And we settled on, Ted and I really we settled on about 19 people, and we're like, this is perfect. This is a really good list. This is really strong. And then, within a week, Ted had the horrible realization of some of these people won't even get to talk, and so that went from 19 to 11.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Talk about the most brutal cut. I mean, that was just really, really tough.
Had you already reached out to them to see if they would do it?
No.
Okay, that's good.
We were very careful. We were very, very careful about doing that, and that's why he and I have been working. We've been working on this for months, because you don't want to over ask and then say, "Oh, sorry, we can't have you." That you would never want to do.
Yeah.
But there were people that and I've been attending Haunt since the very early '80s, and then of course as TPA, I have worked with Haunt very, very closely since '94, and so. For me to have to tell these people that some of them are very good friends of mine, you're not on the presentation, awkward turtle.
Yeah.
It was not easy, but it folks understand. And when you say, look, it's a logistic thing. It's nothing more than a logistics thing. We've got a certain amount of time and 45 years to talk about. We've got a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah.
So actually. And then then it ends with John Cook is going to be on it talking about he certainly has brought the level of maze design to really the new level, right?
Yeah.
With things like Paranormal and Shadowlands and whatever he happens to be working on for this year, and so we felt it was important to have him as well on that, and David Markland actually was the capper on this. He came out of nowhere and said, "I think we should end Midsummer Scream with this, and I think that once the presentation is over, it should empty out into the lobby of the Terrace Theater, and we should have a reception there so all the fans can mingle with all these people and get pictures and ask them questions and talk to them and meet them." And I thought that was absolutely freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
And so that's how Midsummer will end this year. And we will say also, there are a lot of people that are not going to be physically up on the stage for the presentation, but there are going to be a lot of people in the audience that have been part of the Not Scary Farm story for the past 45 years. They will all be acknowledged at once. Ted's going to have everybody stand up that has been part of Haunt in some capacity over the years. And all those people, they're all going to be in the lobby afterwards to mix and mingle with all the fans.
Oh, that's going to be so cool.
Yeah, so I couldn't think of a better way to end Midsummer Scream this year, and that is 100% David. He came up with that, and I was like, dude, that is so badass. And so that I think that's going to be a perfect ending.
That's kind of emotional. I mean,
it's very emotional. Sure it is.
For some people, I mean, myself included, Knott's Berry Farm is super important. To part of how I identify as a person and who I've become and my hobbies, and I am by far not the only one. There are going to be countless people who are going to be there and just be blown away and awestruck by everyone who's going to be there and the things that they're going to share, and I can't wait. It's going to be great.
It's really special. It's really special, and I can say that in working with you guys, the fans should know that we've worked out the Decade Brigade show times on Sunday so that a good chunk of the Decade team can come over and be there for the reception, following the show, because so many of you guys have given so much blood, sweat, and tears, to Knott's Scary Farm over the years.
Yeah.
And you deserve to be part of that too. And you bet it's emotional, right? This is the granddaddy of all theme park haunts. This really started an industry 45 years ago, that's freaking crazy. And that's longer than a lot of our attendees have even been alive.
Yeah.
True.
And so that's longer than some of the Decade Brigade has been alive.
Most of them,
you guys.
Most of the Decade Brigade.
Okay, you can stop right there.
I think all of maybe two.
Maybe Spaz and...
Right?
We won't say who else so they don't get
Veronica,
offended.
you're absolutely right, Veronica. It is a very emotional end to Midsummer Scream, and it is an absolute perfect way to begin Knott's haunt, their 45th haunt season. I can't think of a better gateway. I really can't, and it's fantastic.
Agreed. Up, down, and sideways.
Well, it looks like we're just at about an hour. That went by so fast.
It seems like the perfect way to end the convention and the perfect way to end the podcast.
Yeah. So, Rick, as we're winding up, how about you tell everybody how they can buy tickets, where they can get more information, where they can follow you guys, all that good stuff?
You bet. So if you go to midsummerscream.org, that's where Midsummer lives online. And then, of course, all the social media platforms. We're on Facebook. We have a fan page there. We also have an event page for 17, so make sure that you RSVP that you're going so you can tell the whole world and all your friends that you're going to Midsummer this year. We have an Instagram, which is Midsummer Scream. We've got Twitter. We have a Periscope that we will do things on, once we start installation and all that. And then, of course, there's Creepy LA. That's David's website. And then, of course, Theme Park Adventure. That's where we live online, and of course we have all the social media outlets. Just play with your Google, and you'll find all this stuff. And we're going to be there. We're going to be broadcasting. We're going to be tweeting. Installation begins. We have 2 days of installation. So once we start installing there in Long Beach, we'll be periscoping and tweeting pictures. And one of my favorite moments, one of my favorite things of all time, is when we periscope the massive curtain that creates the Hall of Shadows.
Yes.
When we periscope that thing going up, talk about another emotional moment.
Yes.
Seeing that thing go up again this year is going to be like, oh my God, we're all going to be crying.
It's
gonna be all
it's
exciting.
happening.
It's like the flag being raised. It's like, here comes it's starting.
Yeah.
And if your listeners have not ever seen that, you're not going to want to miss it. It's when we say that we're raising a curtain. Let's say this curtain is almost as long as a football field. It's 325 feet long, and it's about 20 feet tall, this thing. And it all goes up on once. And I joke, I say it was a really, really simple idea to come with and very, very expensive to execute.
Yeah.
So it was, it's a thing. So it is absolutely a sight to behold when you see the giant curtain that makes up Hall of Shadows go up.
That's exciting.
It is really cool. I remember watching it last year and being like, what? How?
It's pretty stupid. I mean, it's pretty damn big. When you're talking about raising something the size of a football field, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's almost difficult to understand. Even when I was watching it, I was like, how? Like, that thing is, I mean, how heavy is that thing? And, like, how many things have to be moving just right to, anyway. Yeah, that was pretty special.
It's crazy, and then, of course, we're going to be there to see you guys practice practicing, and it's really exciting. And that's when I get to see you guys the most, because the thing that the blessing and the curse is, when you're a proud papa with this type of thing, when it's go time and show time, I don't get to really see anything.
Yeah.
It's just it is such a blur that, honest to God, I catch up on everything listening to different podcasts that record the entire presentation, or watching YouTube videos of your performances, or I honestly, it is over so fast, and I miss so much of it. It's just it kind of sucks as a fan not being able just to sit back and enjoy everything. But I wouldn't trade it for the world, because being able to sit up on like the main stage and look out at all the people in the audience is also really freaking awesome and terrifying.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting dynamic. And so, I mean, it's going to be interesting to hear your perspective after the show's over, hearing what you guys think, what your experience was this year. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I, literally for months after Midsummer, I play catch up by listening to all the different podcasts.
That's a great idea.
That's a good idea.
What an interesting avenue that we have now to be able to share those experiences.
To be honest, it's kind of what I did last year too, because being, the stage manager for the Decade Brigade, it's like I can only catch certain panels when they don't conflict with the show times, and so it's like I have to kind of squeeze in what I can see and then run all the way to the show floor to get the next show ready.
Yeah, that's how we did. But we had less, because we would be recovering in between the shows. We couldn't even leave, except for Spaz, because he's Spaz. He didn't need to rest. But the rest of us, normal people, had to recover between shows, and we didn't get to see much of anything. So that's how we had to absorb the show too, was kind of in retrospect through the filters of everyone who attended. Yeah. And through stories of people who ran up to us and like, oh, I saw this and this. I'm like, I didn't know that was there.
Uh-huh.
I mean, this year obviously we're a little bit more involved with the current events, thanks to the podcast and being friends with you. But last year it was all such a blur. I'm like, I didn't even realize how big it was until a month after the event was over.
Yeah.
To really understand what happened. But
yeah.
It's gonna be so special. I can't wait.
Well, it's very exciting, and I just want to say I am so grateful to you guys for being part of it, and the hours of preparation and what you're putting your bodies through, and what you're putting your lives on hold while you do this, just to bring people that have no clue how much effort has gone into this, that are watching your shows, just to bring them 15 minutes of excitement and happiness or whatever at a time. We thank you guys so much. I mean, the gratitude is unending for what you do.
And it is from us as well, and for what the Decade Brigade puts in. I mean, it's just a fraction of the amount of hours and blood, sweat, and tears that's put into an event like this from everybody involved. So it's an honor to be a part of something like that. It's an honor to work towards something so great and so influential. But, it's just great to see something like that happen. The fact that it happens for this industry is, it kind of warms your heart that a group of people are willing to put forth so much effort for, what somebody on the outside might just call, oh, they just like scary movies, and leave it at that. But they don't realize how deep it goes and how important this is to some people.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, and I'm sure you guys will agree with me, this community, we are one big family, and so we are very fortunate to be able to have this family reunion once a year, and we're just getting started.
Cheers to that.
Yeah. Oh, and then let's plug. You have a TPA meetup, a kickoff, right, coming up?
We do. We have a mixer. We have a mixer coming up on July. Oh my God, my mind just blanked the minute you said that.
Oh no!
It's like in 2 weeks, right?
I don't know.
It's July
9th. Johanna just said 9th at me.
Sure.
Hi, Johanna.
Yeah, Sunday.
Thank you, Johanna.
Sunday, July 9th.
July 9th at. Come here, Johanna. Come here. You're on the podcast. Oh,
Hi,
yes.
Johanna.
You started.
Hi, Johanna. How are you doing?
Johanna's never on podcast with me. So, Johanna, talk about our mixer.
What?
Yeah, talk about the mixer.
Yeah, come on, get on here.
Hi, everybody. So on July 9th, Sunday, we're going to be hosting our theme park adventure pre-Midsummer Scream Mixer at the Chicken Dinner Restaurant in Knott's Berry Farm. And it's going to be awesome, and it's free for everybody. It starts at 6 o'clock.
Yep.
It starts at 6 o'clock. Everybody and anybody that's a part of the Midsummer Scream team and who loves haunted houses and loves Halloween, it's a perfect chance to just hang out and celebrate what we all love, and a couple weeks before Midsummer.
There you go.
Awesome. Thanks, Johanna.
Thanks, Johanna.
There you go.
All right, bye.
All right, bye. She's
That
out
was
of here.
cool.
She's running out of the room with Jawa in arms. There she goes.
Aww. We're going to do our best to also be there. It's a Decade Brigade practice night, so it just depends on how close we are finishing the next show that we're working on.
Sure.
So hopefully we'll be able to sneak out early and get over there before you guys finish.
That's going to be a busy day because the way that we designed that's actually the afternoon of our orientation for our volunteers.
Wow.
So that's happening in Anaheim, and then everybody's just going to come on over to Knott's and kind of mix and mingle and drink the night away, and that's it. After that, it's out of control time. After that, it all becomes a blur, blur, blur.
Right, just game on for sure after
Yeah.
that. 3 weeks till go time.
Yep.
That's exciting.
Cool.
All right, guys, if you don't have your tickets yet for Midsummer, go and get them like yesterday.
It's definitely going to be worth every penny and then some. It's going to be bigger than you can imagine, and it's going to be filled with more things related to haunts and haunted things and everything spooky and wonderful. Like, you have to be there. You have to give this to yourself. Like, please be there. You're not going to regret it.
Absolutely. And make sure you rate us on iTunes because it's going to help a lot of people find our podcast. And you can follow us on Tales from the Fog on Instagram and Facebook. Again, Rick is Theme Park Adventure, midsummerscream.org, and all the various social medias that go with that. Rick, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know you're very, very busy. So taking out an hour of your time, I know, is precious.
Guys, you know what? It's been an absolute pleasure tonight, and my only regret is that you guys are in Corona and I'm in Burbank area, and just getting there would be like an impossible journey at drive time. I really wanted to be there with you guys in person, so this is a distant second, but it is what it is. Thank God for technology.
Yep.
And I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to do this tonight, and I would do it again in a heartbeat with you guys whenever you guys want to have me on.
You're the best. Thank
You're
you
the best.
so
Thank
much,
you so
dude.
much, Rick.
Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. And until next time, we'll see you in the fog.
Bye, guys.